So Connor, I would say welcome to the podcast, but obviously you're already on it as well. So
Yeah,
welcome to the
regular
interview
member.
all about you.
Thanks. Can't wait.
Can't wait. So what player have you brought? The
So
player that
the
you
player
love.
the player that I love, and I'm very, very open about my love for this player because he's just my absolute idol from the moment I got into football, and that is Super Frank Lampard.
Fat Frank. Oh no, I love Frank Lampard, mate. What a player. Goal scorer,
Oh,
wasn't he?
he's unbelievable, just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could honestly, I could sit for hours and hours and hours and talk about Frank Lampard and the impact he had at Chelsea Football Club and the impact he's had on me and just the player that he was. He was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
What is it you like most about him? What was it?
I think it was his leadership. I think he was a very, very clear leader on the pitch, and I think just his ability to be, to time a run into the box and score a goal one moment, but then to be in the right place when defending to pick the ball up and send a pass forward. His link-up play with Drogba, the combinations between those two were just incredible. At that time, he just always gave everything that he had. He was just so reliable. He was very, very rarely injured. Very, very rarely was he rested from a lineup. He was Mr. Consistent, and to be honest, in my opinion, I genuinely do think he is Chelsea's greatest ever player.
Wow, greatest ever player. Why do you think that then? What is it? His goals? Or
I
just the
mean,
way he played and led and
the club's top goal scorer of all time with 211 goals.
that's a lot,
From
isn't it?
centre midfield, that's crazy numbers. 177 Premier League goals from midfield, which is just mind blowing. But yeah, I just think his consistency, his reliability, his leadership, just his whole game, the way he conducted himself on the pitch and how he was. I just think, whilst he didn't start his career at Chelsea or end his career at Chelsea, he was one of those sorts of, in that group of players that were the Mr. Chelseas of that time. He was part of that incredible spine of Cech in goal, Terry and Carvalho, Lampard in the midfield with the likes of Makaleli and then Drogba up front. He was just part of incredible teams that did incredible things at Chelsea.
What did he win? Because he won a lot of trophies, didn't he? A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
trophies.
he very, very successful. Three Premier Leagues, so the 04-05, 05-06 and 2009-2010. He won the Champions League in the 2011-2012 season. He won the Europa League the year after that, the 12-13 season. He won Footballer of the Year in 2005. He won the Premier League Player of the Season in 2005. He was just unbelievable. He also won a number of FA Cups. He got 4 FA Cups to go with that as well, and a couple of League Cups in there too. At a time when Chelsea obviously were transitioning and changing, he was bought just before that Abramovich era started. £11 million, which, I read that and I thought £11 million in 2001 is probably quite a lot of money. But I'm reading some of the transfer rumours and things this morning, and Nottingham Forest are quoting between 100 and 120 million for Elliot Anderson. I'm thinking, well, if that's what his value is in this day and age, Frank Lampard must be worth about 500-600 million.
Oh, easily.
Just
The
on
impact
its own.
that he had on you as well.
Yeah, massively. At that time, we hadn't done an awful lot. Back end of the 90s, we'd started to become a little bit more successful with some FA Cup wins, and into the early 2000s, we started to qualify for the Champions League on a regular basis, but we hadn't really taken that next step. So he came in and straight away started to show he was going to be a key player and he was going to be a big part of that revolution that was then happening. And then obviously 3-4 years later to win that first Premier League title, in that season, the 04-05 season where we won our first Premier League, 13 goals and 18 assists, and he was the one that won us the title on the last day of the season away at Bolton, a 2-0 win that secured the title. He scored both goals. Both really, really well taken goals as well. One of them, he's clean through and he takes it round. I think it was Jussi Jääskeläinen in goal. Takes it round him and just slots it in with his left foot. And that was another thing. Is he scored with his right foot, his left foot. He scored with his head. He just, he had that habit of being in the right place at the right time. And I was watching some stuff on him only the other day, and people were talking about why do you think he wasn't a number 9? Because you see the way he is in the box, the areas he gets into, you're normally thinking that's where your striker should be. But actually, because of his work rate and his ability to find a pass and that connection, I think he'd have been wasted as a number 9. I think he was much better in the role that he did play because he could still find his way into those spaces.
It's brilliant listening to you talk about Frank and the impact that he had on you. What is your favourite memory of Frank when he played?
Oh, there's quite a few that stand out. There's the goal against Barcelona where he's out wide and he's on like the half turn and he just dinks it and it goes round and in. That was an absolutely stunning goal. I remember him obviously captaining us in the Champions League final in 2012 because John Terry was suspended and he scored his penalty in the shootout. I remember the goal he scored away at Hull where the ball just rolled to him at the edge of the box on his left foot again, dinks it into the far corner, rifling in a free kick against Spurs at Wembley, and just being that figure at the front of the images when we're lifting the trophy, him and John Terry, being the two that are lifting the silverware. They're the big things that stand out. I mean, one of my other, maybe not so fond memories of him is when he scored for Man City against us in a 1-1 draw.
What did you think of that at the time when he went to Man City? Because why did he go there? Why?
Well, I was gutted that we'd let him go. And from things I've read since and watched since, he wanted to stay, but was told, look, we're changing things. We're going to move on now without you, and so wasn't offered a new deal. And I think it was part of the move because he obviously went on to join New York City in the MLS, who were obviously co-owned by the City group. And I think it was because he'd signed for them, but the season wasn't happening at that time, so he was playing then for City to keep his fitness up and to keep playing. So I mean, just to see him still playing in the Premier League was great because I just loved watching him play. Like he genuinely is like my absolute hero. But yeah, he scored that goal against us. I was just so glad he didn't celebrate because I think if he'd celebrated, I think that honestly would have absolutely broken me. But yeah, I was really, really sad when I'd seen that we were letting him go. And then the other time I was really sad was when they sacked him. I was absolutely devastated.
Yeah, so anything more on his playing career before we get on to his managerial?
His England record, 106 caps for England, 29 goals. So was a goal scorer at international level as well. Never scored though for England at a major tournament, which I always think is crazy, but should have had that goal at the 2010 World Cup against Germany.
Explain to the viewers that because some people again won't have even been born when that goal went in. Well, didn't go in.
Well, yeah, I think we were 2-0 down. I think at the time to Germany. So he gets the ball. He's quite a way out, and he just unleashes one that comes off the bar and goes down and comes back up and out. And the ref and the linesman somehow didn't give it. And you watch the replays. The commentators immediately at the time are going, "It's crossed the line. It's crossed the line." You see the replays, and it's probably about that far over the line. It's so far over. And it didn't get given, and you think I think we went on to lose that game. I think it was 4-1. It finished, so you think, one more goal in that doesn't change it. It still only becomes 4-2. But actually, a goal at that time to make it 2-1 changes the momentum of the game completely. He was in that golden generation of England teams that I was only speaking to my dad about this the other day. How on earth did the team that we had, the players in that team, not go on and win something? How was that not? The players that were in there, Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, Beckham, Joe Cole, Rooney, Michael Owen, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Ashley Cole, Gary Neville, those players all part of that same team. How were they not, when so many of them were so successful at club level, why were they not winning something internationally? And I think that's really the the only thing that he would probably say was missing from his career is that he wasn't able to win anything with England, because everything else he did, he's got Premier Leagues, he's got Champions Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups. It's probably just that international level.
Do you think he could play now in today's game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think he is still the midfield player that some teams are crying out for. That player making that run into the box, and I think it was it was a time when he started to do that, when sort of clubs were moving away from playing two up front to one up front, and he became that support for the other player up front. For Drogba, they were often very, very close to each other when we were going forward and when we were attacking, because he was getting into those spaces. And lots of clubs now still play with one up front, and sometimes you think you need that player to be making those runs into the box as well, because there's no good having that one player in the box trying to deliver across to you, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to have two centre-halves on him. You bring that player in, I think he'd still score goals for fun now.
So obviously he went from playing and ended up retiring. He retired at New York City, did he? He must have done.
Yeah, he finished there, yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes on to have a managerial career, and he's obviously still managing today. So what did you make of it when he went into management?
Well, he went in at Derby, and at the time Derby were a decently run football club, and obviously him going into that job, I was always then keeping an eye out for the Derby results. Really wanted Derby to do well and to be successful under him, because I just had that love and that respect, that admiration for him, that I wanted him to do well in management as well. And to be fair to him, he only did a year at Derby, but he got them into the playoffs. They had that fantastic result in the playoff semi-final against Leeds, where they were obviously losing from the first leg, and then turned up for the second leg and managed to beat them. There was the whole Spygate scandal with Marcelo Bielsa, where there was he'd sent somebody from Leeds to go and spy on Derby whilst they were training. And got to the playoff final, and unfortunately didn't quite get over the line. And I think at that point he then obviously got the Chelsea job, which was a surprise at the time, because he'd only done a year at Derby. But at the same time, I was absolutely buzzing to have him back, and I was really excited for him to start. And then his first game in charge, I think we lost 3 or 4-0 at Old Trafford on the opening day, and it was like, right, okay. But he joined at a really tricky time. Eden Hazard had just left to go to Real Madrid after being such an incredible player. We were under a transfer embargo, so we couldn't bring any players in. And what was really good at that time is we've been known as a club for such a long period to bring through some really talented young players through the academy. The academy setup at Chelsea is phenomenal. The players coming through it are fantastic. And he finally gave some of those players opportunities in the first team. Reece James started to play regularly. Fikayo Tomori started to play. Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Tammy Abraham all started to come into the fold and start to play. And actually, played well. Tammy Abraham scored goals. Mason Mount was a fantastic player. Conor Gallagher, energy, grit, determination in the midfield. Reece James, I remember watching him on loan when he was at Wigan the one year, and the way he was dictating play in midfield for Wigan, but then moved to play at right back, and really liked Tomori at centre half as well. I've always rated him and really liked him. So he gave these players opportunities and chances. I think he was dealt a bit of an unfair hand by the board in many senses, from things I've read and listened to and watched since. There were players that he wanted to bring in that they weren't able to, and they instead offered alternatives that came in maybe sort of without his say-so. And I thought actually in the end he was quite harshly sacked. We hadn't started brilliantly in the league, but we weren't miles off the sort of top 4, where I think the expectation probably was still to be getting there. And we just won an FA Cup game at home against Luton, and the next day he was sacked, and I was just, I was so irritated, so angry about it. I just thought, for everything he did for this club, and I know sometimes you've got to take the sentiment out of it, but everything he'd done for the club, everything he'd achieved in that first year of qualifying us for the Champions League, bringing through those young players and bringing through that new generation of Chelsea players that were then coming through, to then just sack him and not really give him too much of a chance, I felt was incredibly harsh. But obviously we went on then to win the Champions League under Thomas Tuchel. So you sort of look at it from both
It's a
sides there.
double-edged sword, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really harsh, but actually it did allow us to go to that next level. I mean, there was no way we should have won the Champions League that year. Absolutely no way. But somehow, somehow we did. And he spent a bit of time out there and obviously then picked up the job at Everton. And again, went in there, difficult circumstances. The club was in quite a lot of turmoil at the time. Kept them up when he first went in, then wasn't really taking them to that next step, but I think was being hindered by everything that was going on at the club at that time. They were obviously planning and preparing to move into the new stadium, so money was quite tight there. He wasn't able again to bring players in maybe that he wanted, and there wasn't really a great side there already, I think, for him that he sort of took over from. Lost his job there. Then ended up back at Chelsea in his caretaker spell. And I was, again, buzzing at the time because we'd sacked Tuchel. We never should have done. We certainly never should have hired Graham Potter. That was an absolute travesty. And then, obviously, sacked him and brought in Frank Lampard until the end of the season. And I think he didn't win many games in that caretaker spell. But, I mean, we were in such a mess at that time that I think what they needed was that club legend to try and get the fans back on side. And I think that's maybe what's been missing with a couple of the managers that we've had since then, is that connection with the fan base. Mourinho very quickly got that connection with the fan base, got that love, that adoration. Carlo Ancelotti, Antonio Conte, managers that came in and were able to be successful quite quickly, got that connection with supporters. Pochettino, it took him a long time, and when he eventually was starting to get that connection at the end of the season, they sacked him and got rid of him. Enzo Maresca, again, took a while because he'd just done a year at Leicester where, yes, he'd won the championship, but mixed reviews from Leicester fans who didn't really rate him too highly, felt there was no plan B, which was one of my criticisms of him throughout his time at Chelsea, is that it very much felt like it was, this is the way we're going to play, we're always going to play it, and there wasn't a lot of manoeuvring within that sort of tactical system. But again, he backed it up with success. We qualified for the Champions League, we won the Conference League, we won the Club World Cup, and again, he built that relationship by that point, had Chelsea fans backing him, and then the board decided to get rid of him. Now we've got this absolute clown in charge that I just think is an absolute travesty. But the greatest thing for me this season is to see how well Coventry are doing with Lampard.
Yeah, they're doing brilliantly well, aren't they?
So many people have doubted him because of sacked by Chelsea, sacked by Everton, went back in at Chelsea, didn't do that well that time round. But he's gone into Coventry. When he took over, they were 17th, and I think they ended up finishing maybe 8th or 9th by the end of that season. And then this year, just absolutely flying, and I think they can secure promotion, I think, this weekend, if other results
that'd be brilliant,
go their way. And just, Coventry are, they're a decent club that have had some real troubles. I remember when they were in the real depths of despair and were having to ground share with Northampton. They obviously got kicked out of the Ricoh Arena. CBS Arena, I think it is now. And so it'd just be fantastic for them to come back up, but under his leadership as well. And I've got no doubt that it could end up with him getting a job at another club in the Premier League again. I look at some of the big managers.
But he's going to be a Premier League manager, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's going to be a Premier League manager with them.
I think he certainly, now is not the time to jump once he gets them there. Get him in the Premier League, managing in the Premier League again, because I look at the managerial merry-go-round that is certainly going to happen this summer, and I look at the likes of Palace, who are going to lose Glasner, and I think, well, could he be a shout to go in there at Palace? I look at potentially at Bournemouth, and if Andoni Iraola is to move on, could that be somebody that Bournemouth look at potentially going in there? But I think get Coventry up and manage them in the Premier League and see what you can do. There's not going to be, I don't think, big expectations on them.
No,
they're just going to want to. They're going to want to survive. Is going to be the key thing. And he's managed to get Everton out of that position before, so I don't see why there's no reason that he can't do that again with Coventry.
That's brilliant. Listening to you wax lyrical about Frank Lampard, his playing career, his managerial exploits. I remember when he went in Derby, and I was really positive about it. I thought he gets a really good opportunity to go and develop his craft as a manager, and I thought he did really well with Derby, and could and should have got them up. I think they did lose in the playoff final. I think,
Yeah, playoff final.
and obviously this time round now going with Coventry. Do I think he's a Premier League manager? I'm not sure. Maybe the right players and the right time. But if he can solidify Coventry next season, keep them up and solidify them, and then start to build something where, you know what, mid-table for a few seasons and then go and trying to push for Europe, that is a successful Premier League club. It isn't all the glitz and glamour of trying to win the leagues and stuff because of the powers that be and that restrict you. But if you can just maintain that mid-table, give the fans some moments in the cups and, potentially go on a cup run like Palace did just last season, I think it'd be brilliant. So that's Frank Lampard, your favourite player of all time, would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
Favourite player of all time. So I think it's obvious at this point who you support, but you support two clubs. Would you say you support the two clubs equally as much, or one more than the other?
I think it's probably equal. It's much harder to get tickets to a Chelsea game than it is a Shrewsbury game, so it's difficult to to actually be able to go and watch Chelsea. But I've got, I always want to watch both and see what both are doing. I buy the shirts and all the various different merch of both, and I think I'm just as passionate about one as I am the other. The difficulty has been a few years ago when they played each other, and then it was like, oh, where do I go with this?
Who did you support on that day?
Well, I was sat in the Shrewsbury end, but obviously with Chelsea being the bigger club, you're like, well, I want Chelsea to go through so it's not humiliating or embarrassing, but I don't want Shrewsbury to get absolutely turned over.
What was the score in that day?
It's 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea?
Yeah, League Cup 2014.
Wow. So for Chelsea, we'll start with Chelsea then. So your favourite player to watch for your club right now, who is that?
It's probably quite an obvious one. It's Cole Palmer. When Cole Palmer's, really on his day, and when he picks the ball up and he just glides with it, or he finds the passes, or the things that he's able to spot in the game, the way he can just finish so calmly and so coolly, he's just unbelievable to watch.
And who's your favourite player to watch for Shrewsbury Town?
That's a very difficult one. It's a very difficult one. Because, the majority of that squad I hope to never watch playing a Shrewsbury shirt again, I'll be honest with you. I think the one who's made a real difference is Ewan Morgan, who came in on loan in the January window from Brentford, who's just got that little bit of creative spark and flair, wants to run with the ball, wants to come inside, wants to shoot and create opportunities, and I think that was something we were certainly lacking in the first half of the season. He's coming with a bit of flair, a bit of positivity, and wants to run with the ball and actually move the ball forward rather than, we'll knock it back to a centre half, go long, and then we'll just come back in again. And
is he quite young, is he?
Yeah, I think he's 19, 20, I think.
Oh, God, he's on loan from somewhere, or?
Yeah, he's on loan from Brentford.
Oh, okay. So it'd be interesting to see whether he gets another loan to a different club or potentially signs on for Shrewsbury permanently.
I would assume he's probably going to get, I would say, probably a mid-table, maybe high-end League One move next year. It wouldn't shock me to see him end up at somewhere like a Huddersfield or something like that, a club that's maybe just going to miss out on the playoffs this year but is going to want to challenge next year.
Okay. Now for the interesting question. Who is the most questionable to have played for Chelsea?
There's so many players that could be picked here. One of the names that really stands out was he was very questionable for Chelsea, but has obviously gone on to have a fantastic career. Is Mo Salah? I don't think.
Oh, wow.
I don't think anybody, when you watched him play at Chelsea, thought that he'd go on to be the player that he has become.
And he played in that game, didn't he, down the Meadow?
Yes, he did. Yeah,
in that game he played, and I remember he skied it, didn't he?
Oh, the one that goes out for a throw-in almost.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely terrible.
You didn't think he'd do anything, did you?
No, he wasn't really, I don't think, given that much of an opportunity within the first team, but he did get some chances here and there. I remember he did score I hate to bring this up, but he did score the 6th goal in that 6-0 win over Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. He did get the 6th goal in that game. I think that was his first league goal for us as well. One of very few that he got. But yeah, certainly at the time, I don't think anybody thought that he'd go on to be the player that he did become. Nowhere near.
Who's the most questionable to play for Shrewsbury? Like this, this list.
I mean, again, we could be here a very long time, you know. Oh God, I mean, we had a goalkeeper a few years ago on loan, Joel Coleman, absolutely terrible, really, really poor goalkeeper. I remember him in goal. I think it was against Rochdale in the League Cup, and Rochdale got a penalty, and he got 2 hands to this penalty, and it still went in. It was really, really bad, really bad. But I mean, think about the last couple of years, you know, obviously the things that have happened and players that have come back for like a second spell at the club. So like Toto Enciala obviously came back and was absolutely dreadful this second time around. Aaron Pierre came back and was nowhere near as effective as he was the first time round. And then, you know, players like Tom Eaves came in on loan, was absolutely dreadful years ago. Curtis Main, absolutely awful. Linnell John Lewis. Oh God! I mean, you know, there's been some real bad ones that have turned out for Shrewsbury.
What's the most memorable game that you've watched live?
Well, I think that probably is that Shrewsbury Chelsea game.
Most memorable.
I think that's probably it. Like that's the, you know, the two clubs that I love playing against each other, and you know, it was a good game. It was a tough game. You know, Chelsea went 1-0 up through Drogba. Andy Mangan equalised for Shrewsbury, and it was a Jermaine Granderson own goal that actually put Chelsea through in the end. And I think just being there, you know, the stadium was an absolute sellout, and you know the atmosphere that was there, the belief that maybe there could be an upset, there could be a shock. Yeah, that was, you know, that's one that sort of stands out. That and I think the playoff semi-final second leg when Shrewsbury played Charlton at home.
Mate, yeah.
And I think we were 1-0 up from the first leg. John Nolan had scored that absolute screamer on the volley.
Oh, what a team that was, though, mate. What a team.
Oh, I mean, and some of the players in it have gone on to have, you know, really solid career. You know, Dean Henderson was in goal. Absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. You know, absolutely loved him. Ben Godfrey was the man in between the defence and the midfield that was there. Carlton Morris playing up front, who's now scoring goals for Derby in the Championship, and they're chasing the playoffs. You know, some really, really good players within that team. But yeah, Carlton Morris scoring in that game and just everybody just going absolutely mental and people
that's brilliant, mate, isn't it?
At the end of it. And you know that, you know, when we really believe that maybe, you know, if we'd gone up to the Championship that year, we'd have been battered every week. We'd have been absolutely turned over. We'd have been relegated rapidly. We'd have set the
But you never know, and with
points.
these, you never know. You never ever know. And I remember when Wickham went up, didn't they?
It'd have been fun to watch,
to be honest.
Yeah.
What's your most treasured football memory?
Ooh. I mean, the
sort of
two
your playing days, or
the two I'd probably go for. The first one is probably when Chelsea won the first Champions League. And that, you know, 1-0 down to Bayern, getting absolutely battered throughout the game, pretty much. And then that Drogba header to send it to extra time. I mean, unbelievable header. And then in extra time, you know, to give away the penalty and think, oh, this is it now. And then the penalty to be saved by Petr Cech, and to then go to the penalty shootout, and, you know, all of that to then go and win it in Drogba's final game of that spell for the club was just phenomenal. Like absolutely crazy, unbelievable. And then I think the other one is probably when I got the chance to play at Wembley back in my playing days.
How did that happen?
So the FA had organised a tournament for grassroots football where they were taking the best team from each county to go. So I think we'd gone down to London on the Thursday. Then on the Friday, we'd played like a little tournament somewhere where we'd played a few games against some other teams. And then on the Saturday, we got to play a game against one of the team on the pitch at Wembley. So they sort of split the pitch into four, and you were on a quarter. So we played a team from Cambridge, whacked them 4-0.
Oh wow!
But to score a goal as well was just unbelievable. Just like, and like the funniest thing was
Your own Frank Lampard moment, mate.
yeah. Well, this is the thing. This was 2008, so Wembley had only been open for a year. So I scored there before some of the top players in the world had ever even played there. So that's my claim to fame, really.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just, and at the time I remember we'd been playing FIFA on the Wii, which was a very different experience to like the PlayStation.
Oh my god! Wow.
Very odd. We've been playing that. And,
I'm not, mate. I was more like Wii Sports and not football.
Yeah, no, we'd given it a go on the Wii. It was very, very strange. But anyway, Ryan Giggs had a goal celebration on there where he pretended he was riding a bike.
Right.
It just looked so strange. And my godfather came with us. So there was me and my brothers, my mum and my dad, and my godfather and my godmother, and then one of my grandparents came as well. And my godfather was a huge Man United fan, like absolutely massive. And I said to him, if I score, I'll do that Ryan Giggs celebration from the Wii. But what our manager had told us was, if you score, lie down on the grass and get as much of it into your socks and whatever as possible so you can say it's Wembley grass. So I've scored my goal, ball's played across, there I am, right place, right time to slot it in. Everybody else is going, yeah, throwing himself to the floor, and there I am pretending to ride a bike on the pitch at Wembley.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant, mate. That's brilliant. So what was your playing journey, mate? Because obviously I could have played against you. I definitely would have played against you. But obviously we didn't know each other at that time. So what was your playing journey then?
Well, I was very loyal, one club man. So I think I was year 3 at school. And like my first memories of football really are the 2006 World Cup. That's the first thing that I can sort of really remember. I think we'd been to some Shrewsbury games before that where I can sort of vividly remember small bits, but my first core footballing memory is that 2006 World Cup. And lots of the lads that I was at school with, we used to play football all the time, break and lunch times or whatever. And they said, we play for Preece, you should come training. So, all right, I'll go along. So went to a training session, and we were playing also with the lads in the year above. So I was thinking, I don't know if I'll get into it, if I'll be any good. Anyway, absolutely buzzing because we played a little match at the end, and I scored 2 goals and, got a big cut on my knee from, like the old AstroTurf that places used to have. It looks like the top of like an ice cream tub if it's been frozen for too long. I remember cutting my knee on that and thinking at the end of it, I don't know whether I'll get in or not. And Kev, the manager, called me and my dad over, and he said, right, yeah, he said, I want you in my team. You're going to be playing. He said, so if you come with me to the car now, I'll get you a shirt out the back. So he pulled this shirt out and it had the number 2 on the back, and he looked at it and he went to hand it to me. He went, oh, no, I can't give you that one. He put it back in, and he pulled this next one out and handed it to me, and it was the number 8.
Oh, amazing.
Loving Frank Lampard as much as I did, I was absolutely buzzing to get into a team, but also to have the number 8. I was just, absolutely like, oh my God, I've got the number 8. I was just so happy. Yeah, so happy.
So what position were you most suited to when you played?
So I was a centre mid. That's where I played the majority of the time. I started off sort of when we were playing the sort of 7-a-side. I was one of the 2 in the back line to begin with, but used to sort of like to stray forward a little bit. Still remember the first goal I scored where I've picked up the ball in defence and just sort of moved forward a bit and thought, I'm going to chip it over the top to the lad up front. Put a little bit too much on it and it went all the way in. Definitely didn't mean it. But yeah, was buzzing with that. And then as we sort of went on with that, moved into midfield and then into the 9 and the 11-a-side. Was always a centre midfielder then. Did play like half a season at centre-back once. And quite, at first was quite apprehensive about playing there. I was like, I don't want that responsibility of being in that back line and being that sort of, last line before we get to the keeper. I really didn't like that at all. But sort of grew into it and, you know, began to quite enjoy it. So then I had a chat with the manager at the end of the season, and he was like, well, where do you want to play next season? I was like, look, I'm just happy to play. I was like, you play me wherever you want. I just love playing football. And he was like, no, he said, I want you to, you know, where do you see yourself playing? And I was like, centre mid, that's my, you know, and I was, you know, very much Frank Lampard was who I based my game off. You know, I'd like to pick up the ball, look for a player out wide or the player up front, and then get up there and support them. And, you know, to be fair, I scored a fair few goals in my time. I was a goal scorer in midfielder. Loved getting forward, but liked coming back as well and doing the hard work and winning that ball back to then start another attack or getting that ball back into feet and looking to go again. You know, and was lucky enough as well to be the skipper for the last 3 years that we sort of played together as well, which was, I really, you know, always wanted to be, like, always felt like I was a leader on the pitch and wanted that, you know, responsibility of
that recognition,
an armband and yeah, got that, and had that for the last 3 years that we played. So really enjoyed that, yeah.
So I've asked you to come to the podcast with a combined 11 of the people that you've played with. Now, hopefully these people are listening to it at this point. And apologies to all the listeners that don't know who these people are. But maybe there will be some names that you remember, or maybe you are one of them who are listening. So combine 11 of the players that you played with.
Right, so the goalkeeper's hard because I played with two really, really good goalkeepers. The one, Joe, was there the first few years that I played, and then he went off to play at Shrewsbury for a while and TNS, and then the other one was Mikey, who played for a bit as well. And I'd probably just go for Joe because I think he was just a more well-rounded keeper. But yeah, he was a really good keeper. His dad was our assistant gaffer, and he was brilliant. I just always remember the training sessions on a Friday, like Kev, who was the manager, would get the drills set up or whatever. Sean would do a bit of a warm-up with us, and he'd get us all sat down together, and he'd be like, right, come on then, what's happened at school this week? Any funny stories from school this week? And most of us were at the same school at primary, but there were some that were from other schools as well, so it was quite funny to hear the things that were going on in other primary schools and stuff like that as well. So I always remember that, you know. But yeah, he was a really good keeper, Joe. Really good.
Okay, so your back line?
My back line, I'll go with a 4 probably in the back line, I think, because that's what we tended to play. I'd probably have a lad called Brad at right back, who I think started out really as a striker and then moved to be a bit of a winger and ended up playing at right back for us. He was quick, he was tenacious, liked to get forward with the ball, but wasn't afraid to put a tackle in either. So probably put him at right back. 2 centre halves I'd go for a lad called Ben, who joined us in the last sort of couple of years and was in my form at school, and solid centre half, would put his head on anything, would stick a tackle in, was tough, was aggressive. And then when we were younger, for the first couple of years, we played with a lad called Michael Owen, which obviously for a footballer was just a fantastic name. And he was just a rock at the centre half. He was just absolutely solid, and he could pass the ball. He was strong. He could tackle. He could head it. He was really, really good player. I'm surprised he never went on to go loads further with his football, to be fair, because he was just really good player. And then left back, we had a lad called Jack, again, joined us for the last sort of couple of years that we were playing. Again, tough lad. Was good with the ball at his feet, would get up in the air, could make a tackle, would sometimes play at centre half when we played, but was a left footer who played quite comfortably at left back as well. So that's the back 4 I'd go for.
Midfield?
My midfield's where it gets tough, because I was debating, do I go for a 4 in here or do I go for a 5?
Right.
So on the left-hand side, without a shadow of a doubt, I'd have Will. Will was phenomenal, and he was the player that I knew from a kick-off, when the ball was passed back to me, I'd take my touch and I'd be pinging it out to the left-hand side, and he would get there. He was rapid, absolutely rapid, and he'd just be able to dribble past players, get into a position to cross it, and he'd look up and he'd put it in, and 9 times out of 10 he'd find somebody in that box. And he was brilliant to play with, because I knew every time I picked the ball up, I'd look up and he'd be starting to make that run, and I could just arrow it across, and he'd get on the end of it. And by the time then he got on the end of it and taking his touches, I was coming in at the edge of the box to have it put there. I remember one goal that really sort of stands out was exactly that. I'd put the ball out to him, got up there, and he'd taken his man on, pulled it back, and I've hit it with my left foot, which is me, you know, as they call it, the swinger. The weaker one, hit it with the left, and I just found the far bottom corner. It's just, you know, he was great, really quick, really rapid. On the right hand side, I'd have Sam. Now, he probably wasn't the quickest of players, but he's very, very technical. Like, he could find a nice little pass. He could, you know, throw in a step over, a little turn here, a little turn there, and he'd be able then to deliver a ball into the box quite confidently and quite capably, and then was a good player when we played. And then, to pick, do I have to go into this team? No, right, sound. So I'm going 4 in the midfield then. I'll go 4 in the midfield. So with two centre mids then, I got Josh and I got Ollie. And like, if you played the three of us in there, all three of us are very, very similar players.
Yeah.
All three like to get forward, like to score goals and shoot, but all three would get back and do the hard work as well, like the link-up play and everything. So I'd have those two in there. Josh could hit a ball from anywhere and it would probably go in or at least hit the target. Great at delivering set pieces, and was a tough midfielder in there. Ollie was a little bit more of the silky, creative midfielder that again could pick up the ball, could turn with it, could find a pass and start moving the play forward as well. So I'd go those two in the midfield, and I'd go 2 up front, and I'd have Owen and I'd have Jimmy. Jimmy was an absolute powerhouse. He was rapid, he was strong, he would just run through people with the ball. And when he first started playing, his pace was brilliant, but his shooting was a little bit like he just used to blast it all the time. And he would often go like way with whatever. But he did very quickly start to go, let's place it, let's find a corner, and he absolute bagsman. And then Owen was a lad who had played at centre half as well, and then started to play up front, and was just a really, really good hold up player. Would be able to hold the ball up, take players on, or just hold it back, knock it off to me or Ollie or Josh to then find the wingers out wide. Could score as well, and I mean he had unbelievable ball knowledge. He was so knowledgeable with football.
Right.
They're the two that I'd go up front.
Brilliant. In terms of people that we would actually know, so I've asked you to come with a combined 11 of the best of all time. The best of all time. So give us your combined 11 of the best players of all time.
So I think my goalkeeper, and this is probably going to end up being slightly biased because of players I've seen more of or whatever, but I think my goalkeeper is Petr Cech.
Yep.
He was just absolutely world class in his time at Chelsea. I know his time at Arsenal wasn't brilliant, but at Chelsea, part of that back line that only conceded the 15 goals in the 04-05 season, some of the saves he used to pull off were just unbelievable. I'll never forget the FA Cup final one, the Andy Carroll header, which they were convinced crossed the line, that bullet header that he somehow managed to claw back and get away. That was unbelievable. So Petr Cech would be my goalkeeper. At right back, a tough one, but a player that I really, really liked was Philipp Lahm.
Oh,
I
brilliant
thought he
player.
was unbelievable at right back. So calm and composed and steady on the ball. Such a reliable player in that back line. So I'd go Philipp Lahm as my right back. At centre half, I'm absolutely having John Terry in there.
Yeah.
100% John Terry goes in for me.
Yeah.
Just, captain, leader, legend. He's just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. At the age of, I think, was he 34 in the 14-15 season to play every minute of every single game when we won the title under Mourinho again. Just phenomenal. And partnering him, it's tough because there's so many that I think were just absolutely brilliant. And like, I'm sort of torn between Rio Ferdinand, who was just so athletic and strong and able to play out from the back and reliable. But also, I just think, and it pains me to say it, but I just think Virgil van Dijk was insane for Liverpool, probably before this season. So consistent, would get the rest of that defence out of trouble so many times that I think he's just phenomenal.
Yep. Left back.
So I'd probably left back for me, Ashley Cole.
Yep.
Ashley Cole's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Energy, like to get forward, is capable of keeping tricky wingers in his back pocket and not allowing them to cause trouble. Very consistent performer, solid.
Centre midfielders. What kind of formation are you going for?
I'm probably going a 4-3-3.
4-3-3. Okay, so centre midfielders.
Yeah. So again, this is where it gets difficult. Is that sort of more holding role, because you've got the likes of Makalele, who had the role named after him, but then you've got the likes of Roy Keane, who I thought was just fantastic and tough tackling and everything you want in a leader within that role. You've also got the likes of N'Golo Kante, who just was absolutely brilliant for both Leicester and Chelsea in the times that he was there. So I think based on more of who I've seen in there, probably Kante goes in for me.
So Kante, yeah, alongside him.
And then I think Lampard obviously goes in. There's no way that he doesn't go in. And then, it's tough. It's tough. Because Kevin De Bruyne was just absolutely insane. But so too was Iniesta. And I think Iniesta probably goes in for me over Kevin De Bruyne. As good as Kevin De Bruyne was, Iniesta just was fantastic. Like, I mean, that midfield three, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, phenomenal. Absolutely
Crazy.
Insane.
The level of ability.
So yeah, I'd put Iniesta in there.
On the wings?
On the wings, Lionel Messi goes on the right-hand side.
Yep.
Because it's Messi. I don't know.
The greatest to ever do it.
I don't know what more I can say on that. It's Messi. He goes on the right. On the left, I'm going to put Eden Hazard.
Okay.
Who I just was magical. Absolutely magical. And then down the middle, I think I've probably got to go with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow, so that's hell of a team. So Petr Cech, Philip Lahm, John Terry, Virgil van Dijk, Ashley Cole, Iniesta, Kante, Frank Lampard, Messi, Ronaldo, and Eden Hazard. That's an unbelievable combined 11 of your favourite of all time. That's in history now. You've done it. That's the combined 11. Ones you've played for and played with, and the ones that you think are just the world's greatest. Well, Con, it's been brilliant listening to you wax lyrical about Frank Lampard, your questionable quality player as well, in Mohamed Salah, and then your combined 11s have been brilliant. So tune in next time for our next interview, or combined 11s, or whatever we decide to do next on our next podcast. Take care.